Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Warren Marchant, and I'm the VP of Administration for the Business and Tourism Society here at MSVU. I have the pleasure of now introducing our second panel, our grad panel titled 5 Decades of Successful Grads from Our Business, Tourism, and Hospitality Programs. I'm pleased to introduce you to the following MSVU graduates. From the 1980s, Patrick Sullivan. BBA 1985, President and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to mention Patrick has just won the Chamber of Commerce Executives in Canada Award for Executive of the Year. Congratulations. From the 1990s, Rhonda Bursey, BBA 1994, CPA and Assistant Professor at MSVU Accounting. From the 2000s, Adam Bauer, Tourism and Hospitality Management, 2003, owner of the Grand Banker Bar and Grill, the Old Fish Factory, and Shipwright Brewing Company. From the 2010s, Gideon Singh, Tourism and Hospitality Management, 2019, Manager, Rouge Group. And from the 2020s, Deshawn Davison, BBA 2023, Training and Administrative Officer, Department of National Defense. I will now start the session with a series of questions for our panelists. There will be time afterwards for questions from the crowd. So first question, I'd ask the panelists, please briefly introduce yourself and tell us what program you graduated from MSVU.
Good morning. Morning, everybody. My name is Pat Sullivan, and I'm currently the CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. I graduated in 1985 with my BBA. I know I'm supposed to be brief, but I came to the Mount as a mature student, so managed to slide my way into Mount on probation, but still graduated and then had a pretty good career, which we'll talk about. Thanks, everyone.
My name is Rhonda Bursey. Some of you know me, maybe. I graduated from the Mount in 1994 with a Bachelor of Business Administration in both accounting and management.
Hi, my name's Adam Bauer, and I graduated from Mount St. Vincent in 2003 with a Bachelor of Tourism and Hospitality Management.
Hi, my name's Gideon Singh, and I graduated in 2018 in the Tourism and Hospitality Management as well.
Hi, everybody. My name is Deshawn Davison. I graduated from the Mount St. Vincent Bachelor of Business Administration program in May of 2023, so a pretty recent grad. I graduated with a major in management and a minor in marketing, and I'm born and raised in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, where I still live.
You've all had success since graduating from MSVU. Can you briefly describe to us your career journey since graduation and finish by telling us where you currently are in your journeys?
Okay, since I'm probably the oldest one on the panel, it's not necessarily a brief journey. It's a fairly lengthy journey, but I'll try to abridge it, if you will. I graduated in '85. I had planned on being an accountant, so I wanted to be an accountant. It was everything I could dream of. And then I went to a lot of accounting interviews and determined that it probably wasn't the right place for me. I learned about a marketing role and applied for the marketing role with Procter & Gamble and joined Procter & Gamble in 1985 in Toronto as a marketer in what was then called the brand department. Did that for a few years. I guess I would say that my career is mostly marketing, sales, and then then management. I won't go through every role I've had because there's far too many, but sort of spent my time in marketing early in my career, worked for Procter & Gamble, McCain Foods, Seal Test Dairy, then worked for Moosehead Breweries in the marketing department here. That was then in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, now in St. John. Spent then about 9 years in the beer business, working for Moosehead, then a business in Ontario called the Upper Canada Brewing Company, Sleeman Breweries. Then in the late 90s, got into the internet business and ran, or launched actually, Indigo Online. So that's when bookstores only had stores. So we actually launched an online bookseller. We thought we were going to be Amazon. We weren't. But the bookstore obviously still exists. So spent then time in the internet business, ran a business called Workopolis, which was an online job site, as the president, and then ultimately came back to Nova Scotia in 2012 and became CEO of the Nova Scotia Tourism Agency, which is the group responsible for attracting people to Nova Scotia. Did that, did my time in government, if you will, about 3 years, and then joined ultimately the Chamber of Commerce in 2016 as the CEO. So sorry for the lengthy description.
So I guess when I graduated from here, I took a little bit of time off, a few months, just kind of did a little part-time jobs and waited until I found the job that I felt was going to be right for me. I didn't want to grab the first job. So 6 months later, I landed at Imperial Oil, which was probably the smartest thing I could have done for my career. I started off in credit and collections, then I moved into an actual sales and marketing role for about 5 years, where I got to dabble in the price of your fuels that you put in your cars and your houses today. Then I did a couple of years in business controls, and then Imperial Oil decided to sell a piece of their business to Sears. So when they did that, I did the transition for Nova Scotia and Newfoundland to transition the, service and heating equipment business over to Sears. After the 10 months I spent there, I flipped back to Imperial Oil, but this time as a self-employed agent with my husband, where we ran the Halifax Esso Home Comfort footprint for about 9 years, I guess, and then got out of the oil business. I knew we were getting out of the oil business about 3 years before we got out, so I took my accounting designation at that point. Fell into a teaching job by pure accident. This was not a planned route, and here I am. This is where I am in my journey. Is it the end? Probably not.
So I've worked in tourism and hospitality industry my whole life. I had my first job washing dishes when I was in high school, and my first summer after high school, it was my last year of high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I know I enjoyed talking to people about why they came to Lunenburg. I moved around a lot growing up, and had that passion for my hometown after leaving and coming back and seeing what made it so special. And Lunenburg's a very popular tourist destination. Fishing used to be the biggest industry years ago, but it has been tourism for quite a while now, and we have a pretty unique, special United Nations World Heritage Site in Lunenburg. So it was a passion for talking to people why they came to Lunenburg that got me interested in the industry, and I found out about the program at Mount St. Vincent University, and I came here right after high school and took the degree here. And I worked at a restaurant in Lunenburg called the Grand Banquet Bar and Grill, which I now own. And I worked there serving, bartending, and I eventually did my last co-op there as assistant manager. So when I graduated from university, Fairmont Hotels and Resorts were on campus recruiting graduates. And I went to the seminar, did the interview, and I had a friend actually that worked for Fairmont out in Jasper. And so I had my eyes set on that property and was able to get a position as assistant manager of a couple of the restaurants in the resort right out of school. I flew out there, started the job. I couldn't even wait till the graduation ceremony. They needed me to start right away, but I wanted to make sure I made that ceremony, so I took a few days off, came back home for the ceremony, and I was right into it right after graduation. On a resort property like that, you can really get a lot of experience in a short amount of time. I was there about 4 years, and while I was there, I worked my way up from assistant manager to manager of a couple of restaurants on the resort, did banquets for over 1,000 people, even got to serve the Queen of England and Prince Philip when they were there, and just, learned the Fairmont standard of service and got to work for a big company, one of the most successful luxury hotel brands in the world, and gain a lot of experience there in a short amount of time. I plan on going out there 1 year. I love Nova Scotia. I moved around a lot growing up, and I traveled a lot, so I didn't have the urge to go too far, but there weren't a lot of opportunities in Halifax at the time. But the best move I made was going out there, getting that experience, and later I'd have an opportunity to come back home. Delta Hotels and Resorts were owned by the same company as Fairmont at the time, so I was able to transfer back to Halifax within the company. I met with Mary Dempster. She was a GM at the time at the two hotels, who's a well-known veteran in the industry in Halifax here. I met with her, and when she was out in Jasper for the TIAC Awards, and was able to move back home and start as the outlet manager of the two properties in Halifax. And I worked my way up. I was there about 5 years at Delta Hotels and got that city property experience, which was very different from working on a resort. And I worked my way up to the food and beverage manager for the two hotels, looking after outlets and banquets. And at Delta at the time, we were doing a lot of outside catering. So we did the catering for Tall Ship Silva at the time. We had that contract. We did Halifax Citadel Fort and all the catering there at the time. And gained a lot of experience there as well that was very different from working at West. I decided I wanted to do something different, and there weren't opportunities where I was at the time, and I didn't want to move again too far, so I took a job at the Halifax Club. I was there about a year and a half. That was a private club with a lot of influential people in the business community in Nova Scotia. There I was able to really network and make a lot of connections I still use today. I continued to do outside catering, weddings. I was the director of sales and marketing and the assistant general manager there. So I gained a lot of sales and marketing experience. And I worked in a board-driven model there where I really had a lot of freedom to create my own events and really make my mark. And you really got to do a lot of, create your vision and see it through there pretty easily. And I was there about a year and a half, and the phone rang one day when I was in the office, and it was Alan Creaser called me. He was the one who gave me my first job at the Grand Banker Bar and Grill when I was 18. And he called me that he was selling his restaurant and wanted to know if I ever wanted to move back to Lunenburg and own my own business. And it was crazy because I had never actually told him that that's the whole reason I got in the industry. I saw what he had there. It's something I want to have for myself one day. And then the phone call came and I had an opportunity. So it was about an 8-month process of trying to figure out if it's something that I could do. And I've had the Grand Banker for 10 years now. And in those 10 years, I've had lots of other opportunities come my way that I've kind of jumped on. I had the Old Fish Factory restaurant come for sale to me about 6 years ago, and I bought that. I opened up Shipwright Brewing Company, a little brewery above the Grand Banker, and then I recently, a year ago, opened in a third restaurant, Shipwright Taproom and Pizza, with expanding our brewery and doing New York and Detroit style pizzas. So I've continued to grow over the last 10 years, and kind of where I'm at now, I'm happy with what I have. I said I would never do a third restaurant or even a second for that matter, and here I am. But now I'm happy just expanding and growing what I have. I want to expand my brewery in the building I already have. I want to add on a rooftop patio. I want to do some renovations. So I have two. You said you're going to be long. You're the longest. I think I'm the longest one so far, but. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at today. I have 2 young daughters, 6 and 10, so I'm looking to, grow what I have and spend more time with my family. Thank you.
I will definitely keep mine brief because he's talking about 10 years. That's how long I've had in this industry, so not much to talk about, but there's still a long growth path. So I started my degree in 2014, and I was working serving jobs and bartending jobs throughout my degree, just trying to gain as much experience as possible. I took the co-op route, so every summer we had a co-op to do. I did my first co-op in Hong Kong, actually, and that was probably the best experience I've ever gained working in a foreign place. I'm originally from Halifax, born and raised, but my family's from Hong Kong, so I moved back there for high school, and then I moved back here for university. So going back to Hong Kong for the first summer of my co-op really gave me a fresh perspective of what hospitality is like here in Nova Scotia versus what it's like to work for in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, I worked at Intercontinental Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel. It was crazy big. Like the size of the hotel itself had 8 different restaurants, 3 Michelin star restaurants inside that hotel. So being able to work all the different departments in there in that short, 4.5 months, I got the most experience I ever thought I could ever gain. And then based off that, I got my foundation of what I wanted to do in this industry. So in those next couple co-ops that I had at Two More, I stayed in Halifax. I actually worked at Murphy's on the Water, so I did a little bit of supervising, managing over there as well, running a lot of their tour boats and stuff like that. And then graduated in 2018, and after graduation, my mentality was just work, 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 try to gain as much experience as possible. So I worked at a couple places like Halifax Distilling Company. I actually helped open up Sea Smoke. I then transitioned into working at nightclubs, which was not something I ever expected, but it was a job market that I knew Halifax is big for. So I actually helped open up Hide and Seek, and I worked at Grafton Connor for about 2.5 years, and then I decided to leave the nightclub industry after COVID and everything, and I actually worked at Chop, which is downtown in Sutton Place. So I worked there as a bar manager for about a year, found new opportunities. My old boss at Grafton Connor, Canal, he decided to leave that company and start his own restaurant group, which is Rouge, where I'm at now. It's a steakhouse in Bears Lake. I've been there since 2022, and I plan to stay there. Awesome.
So I had somewhat of a unique journey. So I graduated from high school in 2017 in Dartmouth. I joined Nova Scotia Community College in the Electrical Engineering Technology program. I lasted about 2 weeks in that before I figured out that that was not what I wanted to do at all. So I had a conversation with I think the president or something at the time, and he recommended the business program. So I'd never thought about doing business, but I said, why not? I'm 18 years old, fresh out of high school, might as well give it a try. So I joined that program. I graduated from that in 2019. Upon graduation, I went around to a few job fairs. I found out there was a Department of National Defense job fair, so I attended that. I met a lady, she really liked me, and I got a job as an admin clerk at CFB Halifax with the Department of National Defense. So I worked in that role for about 2 years, and then I was given the opportunity to take an extended leave of absence to return to post-secondary, get my last 2 years of my degree, and get that bachelor's degree so I could really, take the next step in my career. So I took that opportunity. I chose the Mount because I heard a lot of great things about it. I had a few buddies that had gone to the Mount in the past, and they had a great experience, so I said, I'll give it a go. And it was a great experience. I'm super glad I did it. Following graduation in May of 2023, I returned to the organization I was already working in with the Department of National Defense, but I accepted an elevated supervisory role as a training and administrative officer in the base business management office. So now I work directly with senior military members, senior HR managers on various matters, mixed bag of stuff, staffing, training, charitable governance, data analytics, performance management, business planning. It's a whole mixed bag of stuff, but I really love working there. Before joining or becoming a management major, I was told that managers are kind of the jack of all trades, and that's kind of remained true in what I do on a day-to-day basis. So my journey's just kind of starting. Hoping that one day I can continue to advance and in the near future become a senior business analyst or a senior human resource manager with the Department of National Defense for the Royal Canadian Navy. So I'm super happy in the organization. That's kind of my journey so far. Still a lot to go, though, for sure.
Deshawn, if I can start this question on your side of the table, can you describe how your experiences at Mount St. Vincent shaped the direction you were able to take with your career?
Yeah, so I would say that, well, first off, obviously coming back to the Mount and obtaining my bachelor's degree helped me, get a promotion at work, get an elevated role, and kind of become eligible for a lot of opportunities that I maybe wouldn't have been able to get with just the diploma. I would say also, just the classes and stuff that I took here at the Mount really elevated my interest in business administration. Just kind of all the stuff that go on in the background of an organization. I think a lot of people don't really think about that, and there's a whole ton of stuff that goes on, and that just elevated my interest. And then I think probably the last thing would be just all the reports and write-ups and papers and all that stuff. Really just mastered my communicative style, writing style, and that all trickles into my day-to-day work now and how I interact with people. So, yeah.
For me, I probably briefly mentioned this already, but the co-op program is such a good hands-on experience in the hospitality industry. That's the best way you'll ever actually gain experience in this world. When you're in the co-op program, you have an option to either do your own job search, or you can use the facilities at the Mount to help you secure your first job. That decision for me for going to Hong Kong was my own job search, and that was the most real-life experience I got to feel what it's like to go search for a job and be on my own. But I luckily had the safety net of the Mount to help me if that didn't pan out. So that real life experience that I gained at the Mount helped me set up my success for future interviews or future opportunities that I had. So that was a big part of it. And I would say the other thing is just like getting a better understanding of the tourism industry as a whole. Because when we start off your degree, you don't know which sector of the industry you want to go into. So through these courses, you get to more condensed classes that you have bigger focuses on, and then based off that, you kind of understand what you like or what you don't like, or things that interest you. So it really helped solidify my choice of where I'm at in this industry.
Yeah, for me, having the degree in tourism and hospitality management, that opened the door up to Fairmont straight out of university. Without that degree, I wouldn't have been able to walk right into a management role. But it wasn't only the degree. Again, I'll second the co-op education. For my last work term, I was able to work my way up to an assistant manager job. So I was graduating university with the degree, but also with some management experience already. So having that hands-on co-op management experience and having the degree, it led me right to a management job with a company like Fairmont. And it continued to open doors for me after university. So I always tell people that I always loved the size of the classes at the Mount and what a community it felt like here on campus. That community stayed with me after graduation. I was 4 years later after graduation, and my co-op advisor I'd stayed in touch with. She was up to date kind of where I was at in my career. She knew that I wanted to move back to Halifax someday, and she made that phone call to me when Mary Dempster was going from Delta Hotels, was going to be on my property at an event. So I was able to make that connection with her, and it was Mount St. Vincent that helped me get my job and be able to move back to Nova Scotia. And again, you don't hear many stories like that after being graduated 4 years later. I always stayed moving back east. I was closer to campus here and always loved getting out to participate in events like this. And all the Mount did for me, I like being involved, and it led me to also teaching part-time here. When the beverage management course comes up, I've taught that the last several times, and I've taught some other courses as well. But the Mount to me it's a community that I love to stay involved with, and it's opened a lot of doors for me.
I guess for me, I lived on campus for the first 2 years I went here, and I was a science student, and then I switched into business. So I didn't get the opportunity to go through a co-op program. I guess I made my own co-op in that I forced my way in places and got good jobs the 3 summers that I worked while in university. But I would say, from my experience, is my involvement with clubs and student politics while I was in university here. It opens up so many pathways. It helps you engage with so many different groups across the university. And it also helps with your self-esteem, and it gets you into public speaking a bit. And I think that that's very important for being able to present yourself well to prospective employers or gaining your way into organizations where you think you would be a good fit. So I think that being involved in whether it's your society, which is your business and tourism society here, and And or if you can get involved in the student politics at all with regards to student union. I was a vice president, so I definitely had lots of exposure to different areas of the school in that respect. I think that helped me with being confident enough in my abilities to present myself to an employer to make sure that I got the job that I wanted when I got out. I guess that's what I would say.
I had mentioned I came to the Mount as a mature student, so I was 24 years old when I arrived at the Mount to take the business program. I was very happy that the Mount let me in and wanted to accelerate my time. I did a co-op program. The first phase, I guess, after a year, did one co-op term, which was wonderful. Worked at Nova Scotia Power in the strategic planning area, which gave me great insight. I had office experience before. Prior to coming to the Mount, I was working in an accounting office as a junior accountant. So I think once I had my first co-op work term, and I was lucky enough at that point to already have a wife and a child, decided that it was probably time for me to accelerate my time at the Mount. So tried to take summer courses and sort of a little bit of an extra course load, but mainly summer courses, instead of doing another co-op work term. To end my time in 3 years rather than 4 years. In my final year, I was co-president of the Business Society, as it was called then, and that really gave me an opportunity to kind of step up. It really enhanced my resume. There were a lot of employers that loved the fact that I was in a leadership position while at university. So anything I think anyone could do to kind of get involved in leadership is really, really important. I think the other thing I did was I kind of learned how to work. I wasn't a great, very studious person prior to arriving at the Mount, but since I had a family at home, I kind of spent my time during the days doing my work. So went to classes, but just did the work during the day so that I didn't have as much homework to do in the evenings or on the weekends. So kind of made it a 35 to 40 hour work week, which really kind of helped me as I finally got into the workforce in the future. So lots of great experiences at the Mount and really loved the time I was here.
Thank you. Adam, if we could start this question in the middle of the table and then we'll alternate back and forth. Do you think it's important for students, including those here today as part-time or working full-time, to plan to start a career path of where they would be in 5, 10, or even 20 years? And do you have any suggestions for how students could start that planning process?
Yeah, I think it's very important to set your goals and create plans. Like I said before, I always knew what I want to do one day, even if it seems far-fetched and something you don't necessarily know you're going to be able to achieve. Set those goals and work towards it. Start with your long-term goal, whether it's 20 years out. And plan yourself to align yourself in that direction and create your short-term plans to build and prepare you for that. I wouldn't have been ready to own a restaurant if I wouldn't have made all the moves I had made leading up to that right out of university, 5, 10 years out. So I put myself in a position where I achieved the goals I needed to prepare me to be successful with what was ultimately my dream to do. And I would say the best way to do it is align yourself with mentors and have mentors in your career that believe in you and that you prove yourself to. Be the one to pick up the extra shift and take on responsibilities that aren't necessarily part of your job. Be the one they can rely on when someone calls in sick or there's a special project that comes up. Make that initiative, go above and beyond. Take courses, continually educate yourself, and build your position, and have those mentors that are invested in you like you're invested in them. I know one thing Delta was really good at when I worked there, they had EDRs, they had employee development reviews, and we revisited them every year. So that's where I got to, with my mentor, my person I was working for, I got to look at my goals, short-term and long-term, and then they could make sure that they were offering me what would engage me and keep me invested in working for them. And at the same time, they were going to get more out of me because I was really engaged. So that's a big piece of advice I would have, is have really good mentors. Find mentors in your career that believe in you, and make sure you invest in them and they'll invest back.
In terms of setting up a goal, I like the way that I view it. If you don't know what your big plan is, that's okay. Like, you're still, well, especially for me, when I'm still starting out in my career, I'm not sure which final direction I want to go in. But my small major goals, such as like 5 years or 10 years now, I want to gain that experience. So all my decisions that I have right now should be towards that. So if I want to gain a bunch of experience, or I want to become a manager, or I want to be an owner of some sort, all decisions that I make that I have right now should be towards that. So planning ahead, having that framework of the direction you want to go, not necessarily where you want to be at the end, but the direction you want to go is definitely very important. I think the biggest skill to have in all of this is being adaptable. This industry is ever changing. It's always going to change. There's always going to be new issues or new opportunities, both good and bad. So based on that, let's say you had a big plan and then things change. Being able to adapt and change and figure out how your plan's going to fit that is going to be the biggest crucial skill that you're going to need in this industry. So yeah.
Rhonda?
I agree with the thing about mentors. I mean, obviously coming from an accounting background, if you're entering a chartered professional accountant program, you're going to have a mentor anyway. That's part of the program. But surrounding yourself with people that are meaningful to you and engaging with them regularly. With respect to 5, 10, 20-year plans, I think that's a personal choice. I didn't have any 5, 10, or 20-year plans. I decided at a hotel in Halifax when we were told the oil business was being sold that I was going to enter the accounting designation program, and I did it the next week. That was not a plan. I had chosen to not go that route when I graduated from university, and then 17 years later I decided that's the route I was going to go. I still don't have a plan, and that's okay. Different people want different things. Laying out 5-year goals is pretty good. I think that's a good idea. Once you go to 10 or 20, it may be a little too far out, and you may not be able to figure out where you want to go. And things change. Doors open, doors close. But when a door closes, there's always going to be one that's going to open for you. And that's what you got to remember. There's always a plan for you. Even if you don't know what it is every 5 years or every 2 years. So what I say is don't get stressed if you can't make a 10-year plan or a 20-year plan. That's what I'm going to tell you. Because I didn't stress about it, and I'm doing okay. But I do suggest you find mentors. Stay in touch with your profs that you're close to, because those can be wonderful contacts for you down the road, and sometimes end up being your really good friend.
Deshawn?
Yeah, so I think it's super important. I'll be the first to admit, I never really had a plan coming out of high school. Obviously, I was supposed to be an engineer, and that didn't work out. Having, those conversations with people that are either at a level you want to reach or have been in your shoes is super important. So, my biggest piece of advice would be to talk to those people, research, go online. There's a lot of great information online. Obviously, there's some stuff that's not great, but there's a lot of great stuff for free online that you can answer a lot of your questions that you may have. Also, take advantage of the Mount Mentor program. I know that was offered when I was here. I'm not sure if it's still around. I didn't graduate that long ago, so it probably is still around. But yeah, I think that's one thing I never really had was a mentor in my personal life or in my professional world. So I think that's definitely something that's important. Look for those mentors, ask questions, and really be a student. Have your ears wide open. So, yeah.
Like many people, I didn't have a plan, but I, having worked in an accounting office, having worked in grocery stores, the person that I kind of modeled on, I suppose, was the general manager. So I had a goal. I don't think I had a plan, and my goal was to be a general manager. I wanted to be the boss. I didn't want to be the guy to take the orders anymore. I wanted to be the guy to give the orders. And I think over time, that's just kind of expanded. So it I was a general manager of a very, very tiny business, and then I was a general manager of a slightly bigger business, and then again a slightly bigger business. None of them huge. But again, I think having a plan may be too ambitious for 10 years or 15 years. It would be great if you planned out that far, and I know people who do, and they have little books, and they tick the boxes, and they do all those kinds of things, and it works for them. But for me, it was more about, I want to learn more, I want to do more, and asking questions, and asking people for help, and indicating that you have further ambitions, I think, is really, really important. Letting people know that you're interested in doing something else or taking on more responsibility is really, really important, because unless you tell them, they simply don't know. And if you do tell them, they might look at you a little bit differently. So I think you're helping yourself to get to that goal by letting other people know what you want to do.
Thank you. And one final question for me. What would be the one major piece of advice you would give to students here today? Rhonda, would you like to start?
Be open to change, because it's a changing world. Don't close your mind to things. You have to keep your mind open. I think that's the biggest thing I can advise students on. Enhance your critical thinking skills, because employers are going to look for that, right? They're going to want you to be able to think for yourself. That's very, very important. So, open to change.
Gideon?
For me, it would be, don't be scared to jump on opportunities. You never know where that opportunity could lead. You never know where you could go next. Also, don't be scared to take those chances and opportunities. Also, know your worth, your value at the place that you're at. If you realize the place you're at is not giving you the tools that you need to excel in those careers, it's time to self-reevaluate where you want to go and what decisions you need to make. Those are big things.
Patrick?
I'm going to say two, actually, because I really like to be open to change. So I'm actually going to reinforce that. Things are not the same. They may seem to be the same for extended periods of time, but change can happen in an instant, and you really need to be open and enthusiastic, I think, about that change. And then the other thing, I guess, from my own personal experience, don't leave a job without kind of letting the folks where you are know that you're interested in doing something else. All too often, I think we look at other roles and say, this role may be better for me, and suddenly you go and you kind of look back and your manager says, gee, if I'd only known you were interested in doing something else. So you really communicate, let people know what your interests are, and let people know if you have an interest in doing more in the current organization before you jump to the next one.
Deshawn?
I would say probably make connections and utilize your support network. So everyone, or most people, are fortunate enough to have a support network, but a lot of times people are scared to use it. But I'm here to tell you, a lot of people have good hearts and they do want to help. So whether you're going through something mentally or emotionally, you should really reach out and utilize those support networks. And then in terms of making connections, what I've learned since joining the workforce is connections go a long way. A lot of people are given opportunities based on who they know. And that's not to say that you're just going to get an opportunity because you're buddy-buddy with somebody, but it's about, letting people know what you're good at and, showcasing that for them so that when maybe something comes up down the road, they think of you and that could be a job opportunity down the line. The last thing I'd say is step out of your comfort zone. So learn about something new. Me, for instance, in my final year at the Mount, I had to take a class that I wasn't that interested in. I didn't think I was going to like it at all. And I went on the first day, and not only did I not like the class, but I wasn't a huge fan of the professor. But, I stuck with it. And after that first week, I started to really, latch on to a genuine interest in the topic. I learned a lot over that semester, and that professor that I didn't like that much the first day quickly became one of my favorite professors I've ever had to this day. Won't say his name, but yeah, that's my advice.
For me, it would be to always follow your passion. There's a reason everyone is here in this room today. You have a passion that drove you to enroll in a program or follow a career path, and never lose sight of that. You have to love what you do to be successful. You have to love what you do to be engaged and to grow. There's days that aren't going to be easy. There's days you're going to be doing more things you don't like than you do, but just keep that focus on what you enjoy the most about why you get into this. Like I said earlier, the reason I got into tourism and hospitality is I enjoyed the people, meeting people about where I was from. It was really about, for me, it was Nova Scotia and it was Lunenburg. It was, and talking to people about it. And, I always like to remind myself, and get out there and try to put yourself in a place where you get to do what you love the most. And you'll develop new passions along the way. I was a super picky eater growing up. And now I eat everything. My passion was in food and beverage when I got in the industry, and I ended up working in restaurants my whole life. But that passion's there now, and from someone who never drank wine became a sommelier. You'll be led down different directions, but there's ultimately one passion that got you involved in this, and always bring yourself back to that. And also, I would say to remain focused long term. If you have a goal or something you're trying to achieve, it's not going to come right away. You're going to have to pay some dues first. When I graduated university, I had the job. I was like, I got the big job with Fairmont. I'm out of school, but I was making less money than I was my last co-op because my servers were making way more in tips than me, and then all my debt kicked in. So it's easy to get discouraged, but I remained focused that I was paying my dues, getting that experience, and then the big moves will come. But you have to keep focused on your long-term goals, and don't get discouraged by any setbacks, any curves, or not getting what you want as soon as you think that you should get it. That would be my biggest pieces of advice.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We have a few minutes here before concluding. I'd like to give an opportunity if there's anyone in the audience who has some questions for the panel. Carla will be coming around with the microphone.
Okay. Hi there. My name is Zoe. I just had a quick question. I also wanted to thank you guys for coming in to speak today. I find one of the scariest parts is to take those risks and how to stay encouraged while having incidents or anything happen. What kept you guys encouraged and to keep going when you first started? And what would you say to the audience or anyone in this room to keep them encouraged to keep going?
You're going to fail. So and to your point, the most important thing when you fail is to actually realize that the reason you failed may have been that this wasn't the right thing for you, or this wasn't the right role or the right area. I mean, it's kind of hard to sit here and say, I've been fired before, but I've been fired before. And sadly, many of us are going to be fired in our careers. I'm not trying to be negative. This is actually a positive statement. And you know what? It was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it got me out of a place where I probably shouldn't have been, and it set me on the road to a place that was a much better, much more enjoyable, and actually a place I made more money. So, there's going to be failures along the way, but you're here for a reason. You're going to do great as time goes on if you do have kind of that positive attitude, and I think as well, doing what you're happy doing is really, really important.
I'll just agree too that yes, you are going to fail. There's going to be lots of setbacks, and they'll send you in different directions, and you may not realize it at the time, but it could be a better new direction for you. But always to try to find the positive in the negative. Learn from those experiences, learn from those setbacks. Decide maybe you want to go in a different direction, or decide what you could have done differently that will make yourself stronger. A lot of things we don't learn until we fail, and we've talked about our career paths and what's led us to where we're at, but I've had lots of setbacks since owning my own business too, and there's been some times that were rocky and stressful. There's a lot of risk in owning your own business. There's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of hours. It can be stressful, but you remain focused and you adapt and you make sure that you take a different direction next time if you need to.
I'll just say fake it till you make it. That's the number one piece of advice.
For me, talking about embracing failure, you take all those opportunities and you learn what to do differently or what you should do better. You just got to embrace that failure. To be completely honest, in my management career, I probably learned the most in management through all my poor managers. Thankfully, I didn't have to make those mistakes. They did it for me. And based on that experience, I've learned what type of manager I wanted to be. So failure is not a bad thing.
My only comment is I think it's important to actually fail a few times in your life, because if you don't, you're not going to know what to do with it when it actually happens. And that can be in a piece of your career, or it could be in a course in university, or it could be in a sport or something to that effect. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything's a learning opportunity. It's what you take away from it is what makes you stronger as a person.
Any other questions from the audience?
One over here.
Okay, I'm Monica. I wanted to ask the previous panel about this question, but anyways, let's say you graduated from school and you actually had a good job with a good pay, but along the line you decided that this is not what you want to do. You want to start up your own business, but it's your first time ever going to start up a business, and your current job is very, very demanding. Are you going to quit and try your new job, or what? Like, is there any advice on that? Thank you.
You have to, the situations can be very different where you're at in your career, and you have to be financially able to do that too. So I guess it's really, if you feel the next step in owning your own business, you feel you're ready, you've got all the experience, again, use mentors, talk to people. I had someone come to meet with me yesterday who's looking at going into their own business, and he was throwing the ideas out at me and what I thought would be successful, what I wouldn't. Talk to people you trust. Make sure you have that confidence that it's a good risk to take, but it's good to use all the people you have that you trust, that you can surround yourself with. And know you're going to be able to make it, right? That was my biggest fear when I left my job. I wasn't in a place where I was financially, that I thought, ready to quit a job and then go open a business. I had to do a lot of work. It was about an 8-month process for me to have the confidence to know that, yes, I was in a place where I could take that risk and I'd have a chance of being successful, right? So every situation is going to be different, but the important thing is doing all the homework, bang on doors, talk to people you know, and you need that confidence to be able to do it.
And I believe we might have time for one last question from the audience.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diana, and I'm here with my colleagues from the NSCC Truro campus. My question to the panel is, what advice would you give to someone who dreams of becoming a business owner, however, struggles with the concept or just struggles with how to execute? So we talked earlier about having a long-term plan and 5-year and 3-year plans, but even with having a plan, there's still struggles with the execution. What advice would you give to someone?
I'm going to jump in here just because my family does own a number of businesses right now. I think the most important thing is for the different skill sets that go with a business is getting yourself different jobs, they could be short-lived or whatever, to gain experience in the different areas of business. Owning a business is very stressful from a cash flow perspective, if nothing else. And Adam hit the nail on the head with sleepless nights and very, very, very long hours when you're owning the business. So I think you have to have some knowledge of the different facets of business. And then, if your business is something that's going to hire people, you hire people sometimes with that knowledge. It doesn't mean you hire an accountant CPA, because no one has $100,000 or whatever it is to pay for a CPA right now. But you get someone that has some knowledge in bookkeeping, and you hire people that you're able to trust. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and I'll second having people that you surround yourself with that experience, especially you don't. I couldn't cook to save my life. No one would be coming to the restaurant if I was cooking the food. But I've always worked in restaurants. I know what I expect, and I know what I'm looking for. So I made sure that when I took over the restaurant, I was going to have a great chef who could carry out my vision. Otherwise, I would have failed. All the business experience I had wouldn't have worked out. So you need to make sure that you have those good people to surround yourself with. And I was very fortunate in my situation. I was buying a business from someone who was a mentor of mine, and someone who really cared about the business succeeding. He seeked me out for a reason. He built that business from the ground up and wanted to see its legacy continue. So, and I'm not too stubborn to call and ask for help. Never be too stubborn to admit when you don't know something. I still do it. I bought the business 10 years ago from him. I'll still call him and say, have you dealt with this before? What'd you do? Asking those questions, learn from someone else's path. So, if you're getting into owning your own business, your potential rate of success will all depend on all those factors, right? If you have someone who can mentor you through, that you can ask questions for, who can lead you in the right direction, and good people to work for you.
Obviously, NSCC and the Mount are wonderful schools, but there are also organizations that can provide you with some help if you're thinking of starting a business. So there's an organization in Halifax called CEED, C-E-E-D. I can't remember the acronym, but it's a Center for Entrepreneurship and something else. Anyway, CEED, they do training programs for folks who want to become entrepreneurs. ISANS, if you're new to Nova Scotia, and this may not apply in this case, but ISANS has a program as well for entrepreneurs. So there's a number of organizations that are helping people to kind of start a business at the grassroots.
I would just say something that resonated with me. My boss the other week, he just said, it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to not know. And, there's plenty of resources, plenty of people that do know. And it's just about, utilizing those resources and figuring out who to get in contact with. And as the other panelists said, finding those correct people to trust.
Yeah, going along with the mentorship side, finding other people that have had similar opportunities or similar things that they've started their own business, hearing their story, their setbacks, their struggles, figuring out how they handled it. That's going to be your main support. So surrounding yourself with people that have been in similar situations or people that are mentors to you will help you out.
All right. I'd like to thank our panel for joining with us today and sharing their time, expertise, and knowledge in these subjects. Invite everyone, of course,
Warren,
to continue networking afterwards.
sorry to interrupt you, but we have one last question.
Oh, sorry, do we have one last one?
Yes, one last question,
One
which
more,
we have
sorry.
time for. Sorry to interrupt you.
I would like to thank you all for organizing this event and giving us the opportunity to be a part of this. So, after hearing all of your stories, it is very clear that you always have to move from one job to another and place to place until you finally find success or what you really want to do. So my question is how easy or difficult it was for you to always changing from position to position and evolving yourself according to the new environments and demands of your new job.
Sure, Patrick.
As the guy who's changed most, I suppose, it's not actually that hard. I mean, I'm going to just make it sound very simplistic, and it's not. But working with people, understanding financials, whatever you think you're doing, you're ultimately selling or marketing a product. Those are all pretty basic things, and ultimately, almost every business. I mean, I deal with. We have 1,900 businesses in the Chamber of Commerce. 300 of them are not-for-profits. They're still concerned about paying people on a biweekly basis. They're still concerned about getting their messaging out. So a lot of businesses are the same, but obviously digging into the specifics of whatever business it is, you need to put in some time and effort as you join a new business to try and have a better understanding so that you can succeed, or so that the business can succeed if you have a senior role.
Yeah, working in different places will round you. You'll take good and bad from different places, different people you work for. If I would have stayed in one place and not left Lunenburg, or not worked out west, or not worked in Halifax, it would have completely maybe set me on a different, it wouldn't have prepared me for what I was going to do. So, it's good to invest some time in a place you're working, but, working in a variety of different styles of places will only well round you. And it's something you take the positives out of it and you learn from the negatives.
Yeah, as I said, I've only been in 2 roles now, but in the same organization. So I would say just, I'm going blank here. So just, you got to really utilize all the skills that you learn in one job and kind of transfer it to the other. So, and just kind of keep building, and eventually kind of you'll have that well-rounded knowledge, and jumping from job to job won't be so much of a hurdle. So, yeah.
The first change will always be the scariest. That's how I view it. That's how I did it. And that's after that, after you gain your foundation, when you jump from place to place, if you don't necessarily need to jump from place to place, but when that opportunity that you set yourself some goals and you can't do that at that current job and you need to move elsewhere, that change won't be scary, because what you're looking at is yourself and where you want to go. So that change shouldn't be scary after that fact. If you want to progress in your career or go to certain goals, that it will be scary at first, but then you know the bigger picture.
Last thing I'll say about that is I think it's kind of fun to jump around and work in different industries. I've done corporate and the entrepreneurship route, now education. And when I first jumped into education, it was totally as a part-time instructor. So I was doing gig work amongst like 2 universities and the CPA program just to make a regular paycheck. But I did make a regular paycheck at a gig work, because it's quite possible to do that. But it's interesting because you find out things that you like about different facets of the business world, or the tourism world, which is also business. But you find out different facets, and you kind of find your niche and where you're going to fit the best. I think that's the best thing you can do for yourself. I don't recommend you jump jobs every 6 months, because it doesn't look good on your resume, but that's just an extra.
If I could just add one more thing, just thought that when you're working at different places too, this was never my personality, but just make sure you are never burning bridges. It is an extremely small industry. I'll give you an example. One of the bellmen in Jasper that worked on the resort is a lead tour director for Toke Tours, who I deal with in my restaurant at the Old Fish Factory. I met him out in Jasper, and he's one of the lead tour guides here. You never know, you're going to cross paths. That's one thing I love about this industry too, is the network of people you get to know. In my time in Halifax, really has done a lot for me, being down in Lunenburg with all the connections and relationships I have here. So, all those different places you might end up working, really value those relationships, and don't burn bridges, even if a place isn't for you.
All right, I'd like to invite everyone to give our panelists a warm welcome. Thank you.